Bene's Bloody Bits.
Welcome to Triple B. My name is Jason Bene. He is film historian Malcolm, founder of Pumpkins, took last week off. Harvey, how's it going, man?
It's going good. I'm still feeling a bit rough because I'm still being ill. Extremely dizzy still, but I thought sitting here and talking might be a little bit better than just kind of, laying about kind of thing. What about you?
Okay, so yeah, Malcolm hasn't been feeling well, but he's doing better, but let's hope he gets even more better because we want the old school Malcolm back. But today we're going to talk about Trick or Treat, a movie I think that's better than Halloween. I think it's the greatest Halloween horror film ever. We'll talk about more about that. But so this was a film, I saw the trailer for it probably in 2006, and it was supposed to be theatrically released through Warner Brothers and Legendary Pictures. But for whatever reason, they bypassed it and decided to put it direct to video, which made no sense.
I didn't know that. I thought it was actually in the cinema.
Well, I saw it in the cinema, but I actually saw the world premiere was at the Screamfest Horror Film Festival at the.
So it was at a festival, not a real cinema.
Yeah, man. It's still a festival that goes on to this day in October, and it was Man's Chinese Theater. But Michael Dougherty was there. Some of the cast. I got a picture with them, and the movie went like gangbusters. It played well, and you just.
I need to ask you this. I'm sorry to cut in, but I have to ask you: was Saki there?
No, it was it was Michael Dougherty, and it was some of the younger girls. Some of the girls that played the werewolves.
I just wondered because she became quite big for a period, didn't she?
Oh, you mean Anna Paquin?
Yeah.
Well, you remember leading up to this, she was in X-Men as well.
Yeah.
So the movie played
she almost
great.
killed Wolverine.
Exactly, and the movie played great, and it was kind of exciting to talk to Michael and say what a great film it was, but it was a bummer because you're like, how did this not go to theaters? What were they thinking? Like they did not give it the theatrical release it deserved. But when did you first see the film?
I first saw the film on Blu-ray when I moved to America, because I had the Blu-ray in America. I'm sure it did. It was even on DVD. It was Blu-ray, I'm sure. But the first time I saw it was probably 2013, because I don't remember it being over here. I probably had a cheap DVD and I probably didn't notice it at the time. And I really liked it. I mean, I watched it again today because obviously the 4K recently came out. And I was shocked. It was 82 minutes. I was like, that's actually a really good time compared to movies now. And it really flows by. So, yeah, I was fucked with that.
Before I forget, can you guys please like, share, and subscribe to our channel? Yeah, but let's talk about, the running time's 82 minutes, but it's in the format of a horror anthology where there's 4 different tales, but they're really not separated. They're interwoven to each other.
This is why I like anthologies this way. When they connect throughout the whole movie. I hate when you have that kind of abrupt thing and then you get the title for the next one. I love it when they connect and then you see how they're all in each other's story later on, even if they're out of sync.
It almost is like Pulp Fiction style, where it's all these stories but they're connected. It's really the story kind of takes you backwards, and like you see stuff happen, and then you go to earlier in the night, and everybody crosses paths in this film. So basically, what I liked is there's no moderator, there's no narrator, and it's made quite clear who this character Sam is. He's kind of like the overseer of Halloween. He makes sure you don't break the rules and you follow things. And he doesn't speak, but you get it from the, early on that you understand this guy's like, if you're walking around destroying pumpkins, I'm going to take you out. If you're set up decorations for Halloween, but you don't even wait till November 1st and you already start yanking it down, like the couple at the beginning, the girl's like, I hate Halloween. Sam knows. So I appreciate that he is kind of like the Lord of Halloween. Yeah. That's why this movie works for me the most. It absolutely embraces Samhain, Halloween, what it's about, the rules, the regulations, and what you're supposed to do. And if you don't, if you're an old geezer that's bitter about the world and you don't want to give out Halloween candy, I'm coming for you. And
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, what did you think about, Sam as the character without, them saying it, who he is?
Well, the thing is, at the beginning, right, obviously you see what happens, to the woman. And what I like about Sam is, you're like, where is he throughout this movie? A different parts, like, where is he? But he's always there when there's the comeuppance to everything. Like I love the bit with the werewolves, where he's just sitting there in the background, where he's probably invisible to these people and, just sitting there. And then nobody really notices him because he just slides in and out. Even though he's got the most noticeable costume and outfit and the look, and and I love how he goes from being like this short kid to when he's fighting with Brian Cox's character, is a full-grown man, like jumping on the back and all this, But I think he's a good character. I was quite sad for his technically only been in this film. I know he was in the show that came out in 1996, which was Season's Greetings. You've seen that, right?
I have not. Send me a copy. Send me a copy.
It's on the 4K. I'm sitting there going, he's going to have seen this, isn't he? Because he's going to have done his research. Guys, he's not doing research. But basically, the show starts as 906. It starts with him knocking on the door, and the guy opens it. The guy has no interest in giving any candy. He beats him up, puts him in the bag, and as he walks away, he winks at the camera. That's basically it. Right? And that's all you need to know about Sam at that point. But that would be what would encourage what this would become basically like 10 years later. And it's such a great thing because he's such a character that's got basically nothing to him until you see the bag pop off where he's got this pumpkin head and he's basically made out of pumpkin juice. But, it's incredible.
And the first tale I love because you have this, the overweight kid knocking over the
fat kid from Bad Santa.
Yeah, and he's knocking over the pumpkins, and he goes on the porch, and it says, take one candy. He takes a bunch. Then the homeowner arrives, and it's one of the rules of Halloween: check your candy before you eat it. Yeah. He just starts scarfing it down, and the scene is hilarious. He starts. You don't find out till a little bit later, but this guy is a principal of a school, so he's well respected. But he's a killer. He's put cyanide in the candy. The kid just barfs out this chocolate like Exorcist style, and it just keeps going. But you can't help but laugh, even though it's totally cruel and totally wrong. And then his son, Dad, when are we going to carve the pumpkin? When are we going to carve the pumpkin? It's a very good redirect because you think, okay, at one point, they're carving a pumpkin, but you don't see what they're carving, and it turns out to be the kid's head. Help me with the eyes, Daddy. Help me with the eyes. So you're like, it's wrong, but it's so funny. And I like that. It's kind of not necessarily a horror comedy, but there's such a dark sense of humor. And then
I'd definitely say it's comedy in it because there's comedy in every single story.
But I like that the next door neighbor is Brian Cox's character. So by the end of the movie, the camera flips and we see the interaction between them two. Because at one point, he's burying the kid's body in the backyard, but he's not quite dead. And he keeps hitting him with the shovel. And he's like, Brian Cox is this, crotchety old dude. What's that? It smells like a dead whore over there. And, it's hilarious. And it's just a great way to start the episode off. And we find out that guy, he's not just a killer of, that kid. He goes off to like a Halloween party in the streets of this small middle American town. And then he runs afoul of some girls. Why don't you pick it up? What's the story with these girls? You could go ahead and lead into what it really is about.
Okay, so first of all, he's dressed up, isn't he, in that mask, and he's got he's basically. At first, you think it's a vampire, right? You think it's this really cool-looking vampire, and you think, "Oh, what's going to happen?" And he kills a woman, and then he says, "Sucky, sucky," and he's like, "Red Riding Hood, I can smell her. I want some of it. I want to taste it." And at that moment, we're all thinking, but she's innocent. She's a virgin. It's one of those Halloween stories where she's like completely innocent. And the next thing you know is he goes after her and the red outfit falls in at the party because before this, they were going, her sister, dressed as Cinderella, was going to get her off with a fat guy in a bloody diaper. How's that not comedy? Anyway, right? So they think it's her, and they point over. As soon as they find out, they go, oh, and then she walks in, and it turns out he bit her, right? And she's like, and then they decide, oh, be careful, it's your first time. And then then Sweet Dreams plays by Bene and Malcolm, which is a great cover, even though the original one's better. I always think the original one's better by the Arithmetics. And then it's like this incredible moment where they just start ripping their clothes off, and you get some nice titty shots, and you get skin being ripped off the leg, off the thing, and it turns out they're these werewolves, and Sam's sitting behind them. And at that point, you're like, oh, this will be one hell of a werewolf sex party. It's phenomenal.
Well, I like it plays on your expectations, because you just assume she's talking, her friends are talking to Anna Paquin's character about losing her virginity. It is in the sense that this is your first kill as a werewolf.
Yeah, that's not virginity, isn't it?
Yeah, and so I do like, it's like skinwalkers. They rip, it's nice practical effects. No CGI, you can tell it's done with, man in suit, and you don't see it coming. You don't see it coming at all that they're werewolves and stuff. So this guy,
especially when you see that guy in the diaper.
She's like, I don't want him, but I like that she takes out, the killer. So, but Sam is still popping up in these little segments, and he's overseeing it, and he's not interrupting anything. This is the way evil plays out on Halloween, and he's kind of letting it run its course. And then the one that's I'm surprised they got away with, when we shift into the story of the school bus massacre, which
the kids one.
Yeah, because first of all, when the girl is telling the story to her friends about what happens, the screen goes into this orange filter, which is lovely, and it absolutely...
Oh, when it's showing them on the bus and everything.
Well, long story short, these are all special needs kids, and the parents are just done with them. They're just too much, frustrated with them. They want them gone and out of their lives. So they hire the bus driver to go to like this rock quarry and basically, put the foot on the gas. Unfortunately, he ends up going down with them, but we know he escapes, but the kids die. That is totally like wrong on so many levels. And I could see, the politically correct people.
You're forgetting this is the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s. At that point, it was still acceptable. If it was now, they'd go, no, they can't be handicapped. No, they can't be this. No, they can't be that. Basically, it'd be like one person in the bus, and that person would have to be like a professor, and then they'd be driven off. It's an interesting story because I love the bit where the student gets loose and drives them all over. Because in reality, that would probably happen because if they've got difficulties, and that person, let's say, for instance, I don't know, they've got, whatever, there's so many things out there. They might do that, But the fact that the bus driver escapes, it just feels really wrong, because you're like, okay, when they go over, you think, oh, he's going to die. At least he's going to go with them. And then you see him breathing, and you're like, you know.
And then also you have the kids that are the girl that tells the story. They're basically going to punk this kind of nerdy girl. They all go to the rock quarry. They dress in zombie attire to make it seem like, and they totally traumatize this girl. But she gets the last laugh, because as they're playing this prank, the kids do come back for real, and yet you don't see it, but they get ripped to shreds. And again, 2007 still was a different time. This story would be canceled quite quickly now, just because you have kids involved, special needs kids that are being basically murdered.
What you're saying right now is back then we didn't have pussy culture like we do now. That's what you're saying.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just a movie, and it's wrong, but it's I think it would be more difficult now to kind of pull that off. I think the internet wasn't what it was then, like it is now, and people would be quick to.
I think I think without cutting into obviously what we're talking about, just on a side note to do with it, I think the problem is, I think because times have changed so much, that's why we love the past so much. That's why we look on these movies, even though this isn't that far gone, because it came out in what, 2006, 7?
7, yeah.
Right? You know, that was what, 14, 17 years ago. Right? That's crazy because, you know, it just shows you how times change so quickly, because stories like this should be fine. I think any story to do, because let's be honest, the most scariest horror is when we're kids. Because as kids, we have these incredible imaginations that make us believe things. You know, I've got a friend who watched this as a kid, and it's his favorite movie.
And as a kid, we're afraid of everything, the monster in the closet under the bed. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't have a problem with it. But then again, I'm a horror fan, so I've kind of seen everything. But I do like how we shift to the final story. This is where Sam kind of takes center stage, and he's after this old guy played by Brian Cox, who lives directly, you know, next door to the killer from the beginning of the film. So we get the camera flips and we see him talking to him. You know, obviously they had 2 cameras shooting at the same time so we can get both. But yeah, Sam goes after him because he doesn't decorate, doesn't give out trick-or-treat candy to the kids. And I like that we get to see Sam, you know, he's got the bag over his head and he's kind of covered up.
He gets massacred.
Well, yeah, he goes after Brian Cox, but Brian Cox is like, I'm a Second Amendment, I own a gun, and he fights back and he blows him to pieces. But you can't really kill evil, and you can't, especially on Halloween. And you know, he kind of.
I have to wonder what would have happened if he'd have smashed his head in and ate all that pumpkin that came out.
Well, I like that he just comes back together. It's like you can just, you know, you think you blow him to pieces and he comes back to life. And of course, this was a little nod to, you know, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh yeah.
When he does, you know, Brian Cox is like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Of course, that's directly from
the beast with 5 fingers where it goes across the floor.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good like way of like bringing everything full circle. Sam is this main character, and you realize, you know, but all he wants is for the guy to give him candy. Yeah. And eventually, you know, he gets he stabs him, and Brian Cox is falling down. He's got all this chocolate candy bars on his body, and when Sam stabs him with that little razor blade, he ends up getting a piece of, you know, chocolate, and he's
it's
like,
not razor blade. It's a sucker. It bites into.
And then he's happy.
That's done with it.
And then he's happy because he got his candy, and he's like, you know, he lets him live. He, you know, okay, you know, even though he didn't do it on purpose, he got the candy from him. But I think it's good that he's not killed because, you know, he gets some normal trick-or-treaters at his door, and he's finally giving candy away. And it's a great bit where he's bandaged his head up, and he's
nice mummy outfit.
Yeah, the little girl's like, nice mummy outfit, and he's just kind of like, okay. And then the door knocks again. Go ahead. Spoiler alert. 5, 4.
Spoiler alert. Okay. 1. The door knocks again, and we go full circle at this point, because when he opens the door, we see these kids go trick or treat, but it's not just any kids, it's the kids from the bus. Right? It's the kids that he drove off. Well, he would have driven off if it was for the thing. So they've come back to get him. So that's probably another reason why Sam didn't take him, because he was prepping him for that. Now, the other thing that we forgot, right, in this, what just came to my head, was when that girl is down there, they call her Retard Rhonda, right? As in, it would be an attack on her like the attack on the kids, because people would have called them retards, right? So I found that interesting, because the fact that she survived, it showed basically that she survived for them in a way, if that makes sense. Do you see what I mean? So I found these little bits connected more. But yeah, the kids came back. He's absolutely scared shitless at this point, because he's like, oh, and then that's where it gets him. And then basically you see all these things go around, and then you see it go back to the beginning with Sam after he looks at him and he's walking towards the thing. Now, what I will say about this is this film had a lot of people that were known names. They might not have been known names as in big, big stars, but there were stars like Brian Cox, like Soki, right? And what's the name? Leslie Bibb and stuff like that, who gets killed at the beginning. You know, and a few others, which I can't remember their names probably in a minute, like the Mr. Wilkes and stuff, you know, people that you know from shows and stuff. And that's something you don't really see much in horror movies now. Now, don't get me wrong, yeah, you see people like James McAvoy now. I'm talking about in the more, what do you call it, ones. You don't see many known names. So it kind of got me thinking about that more.
Well, and I like that the reveal that he was the bus driver is the picture in the fireplace that's burning. And you see him when he was younger, and you can see the school bus, and you're like, you know, because we know he got out of the. Well, yeah, think about him. I wonder what his backstory was, as how he lived with it. Was he guilty? Was he okay with it? And he's just like, if I don't get caught, it's not a big deal. So that leads to, now it didn't get released theatrically, but it was a home video cult hit. Michael Dougherty's been trying to get a sequel greenlit, and it just doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen. Maybe it needs to be left alone as a standalone film, which is the problem with the Halloween franchise. It got out of control, but I'm okay it didn't happen. But why Trick or Treat, in my opinion, like the greatest Halloween horror film ever? Halloween got lucky in the sense that, you know, the original title was The Babysitter Murders, and it just happened to take place on Halloween. Yes, there's jack-o'-lanterns, and yes, there's trick-or-treaters, but that's really kind of like a sideshow to just Michael Myers killing a bunch of dumb teenagers. Michael Dougherty, who wrote and directed Trick or Treat, it's all about, you know, the respect, the rules. It is steeped in Halloween, you know, lore. And to me, Halloween's scarier, and it's got the great John Carpenter score, but it's a Halloween film, a singular film. If I can only watch one horror film on Halloween for the rest of my life, it's going to be Trick or Treat.
Not going to be saying Still Helper.
I wasn't a fan of that Jeff Lieberman film.
That's a good film. It's fun. But yeah, it's nowhere as good as Trick or Treat. My view on the Halloween topic thing of it is, you know, I feel like Michael Myers is more to do with Halloween than you're saying on that. Not because of the thing, but because, you know, technically he's the boogeyman. He is coming out on Halloween when the demons come out, when they, you know, the monsters play, all that stuff. And I do feel like Halloween is superior. Yeah, I'd be amazed if I said Halloween. It was
Halloween is superior.
Yeah, I do think that would be an interesting topic. Yeah, I do think Halloween is superior in that fact. But I do see what you mean when it comes from a whole Halloween standpoint. There's so much to do with Halloween in this movie. There's so much thing. It's all Halloween. It's all about the whole feeling, the whole thing. Is in Halloween, it's basically Michael Myers. If you went in to go from tension, suspension, all this stuff, I do think Halloween is better from a natural horror sense. I do think it's one of the best of the new / old school horrors from like the 30s, 40s, and that kind of twist and turn over to what we would get in the 80s, you know, and stuff like that. But I do think that you're right about this on the fact that I think the costume designs, the fact that we've got Saki in there.
You just love saying that.
You know, well, you know, the fact that she dressed herself up as Red Riding Hood, and you know, in every movie she's got to do some sucking at some point. Why not? You know. But yeah, I do think this is a great movie. I think this is a lot better modern-wise, and I do think it's great that it's a standalone title because I think too many horrors have too many movies. And, you know, I have this argument with people all the time about franchises. I feel like franchises, the more movies you get in it, it can wreck what the original one was. To me, Halloween is a masterpiece on its own. But when you put it with Halloween 2, Halloween 4, 5, and then you add things like Rob Zombie and the newer ones, it takes away from the mystical and the crazy element of what made the original one so much better. Just like On My Elm Street, same as Five Month, you name it. And I think this is what makes this movie better. It's a standalone, other than obviously the short that you haven't seen, which is despicable. And you need to do more research, right? And it's only 3 minutes. So I can't believe it's not online. But anyway, I'm just teasing, guys. Don't worry, I'm just joking around.
It's okay, guys.
Yeah, I think
okay.
this is great. They'll get angry with me afterwards and threaten me. Don't say that.
I think a better argument could be made that, Season of the Witch is more of a Halloween film than Halloween with the witchcraft and Stonehenge and kind of like that. And I actually, Season of the Witch is my favorite Halloween film. And I think that was Carpenter's whole point with, let's get rid of the whole Michael Myers thing. Let's do something original. Obviously that didn't go well with fans, but anyways,
yeah,
I'll stand by Trick or Treat is the greatest Halloween horror film ever. I'm glad I'm one of the few couple hundred people that got to see it theatrically with the director and the cast. And I don't think we'll ever get a sequel, but maybe we don't need one. Maybe that's going to make it more special that, if we overdo the story, it was great as this 80-minute, film that just moves really quick and doesn't have like, I don't know. It's original.
Kickstarting to go. They have this comic thing coming out in a minute, but what I read was it's got nothing to do with the actual director. So I don't know how close it is to it, or if it's just kind of like a cash-in thing. So, but it would have been great if they did like a whole comic series of it.
And also, come December, I want to kind of come back to Michael Dougherty again and talk about Krampus, his Christmas horror film, which is very much similar to Trick or Treat in the sense that it's bringing all these different, spooky characters, but for a Christmas horror film. I think it's a really good tandem to put those two together and watch them back to back. It wasn't as successful as Trick or Treat with fans, but it did get a theatrical release quite a few years ago. Will we
be covering every Krampus movie?
Oh, hell no. There's some shitty ass movies out there called Krampus. No, I just want the one with Toni Collette and
Mother Krampus.
I want the one. Krampus. I want the little evil cookies that are flying. And no, for December we'll come back to Krampus.
Sure.
This Saturday, Malcolm and I will talk about the new releases from Vinegar Syndrome for November. They drop on Friday. Just doesn't work with my schedule. Not a big deal. We'll come back to Saturday and talk a little bit about all the.
Well, it's not that big of a deal anyway, because the main stuff's not released anyway on Friday. It's just partner labels and the announcements, isn't it?
Exactly. So, but before I go, thank you guys for watching. It's much appreciated. And thank you, Malcolm. Hopefully you're feeling better. Trick or Treat is the greatest Halloween film of all time. Move over, John Carpenter. That's my opinion. I will stick with it. Hopefully, it makes people talk a bit about it more and go seek out Trick or Treat. But I've noticed on social media, I've seen as much cosplay and people with pictures of Sam and Trick or Treat than I have of Halloween. I think it is coming. It's really had a fan base from day one. And I think it's only gotten stronger over the years. Recently there was maybe last week, there's a Hollywood Forever Cemetery. A lot of famous people are buried there up in Hollywood. And they just did a screening on the cemetery grounds. They do it like quite often. I know it seems kind of sacrilegious to do.
Well, no, isn't that a bit hard? Because what about the people resting there?
They do it quite often. I think it's done through a Cinespia or something like that. I've seen a movie there before, but yeah, it's they do it like on the side of a crypt or something, like on a wall. They'll project the film, and Michael Dougherty was there, and it had a huge turnout. So Trick or Treat is loved. I love it more than Halloween. Period.
Oh, dropping the mic.
Dropping it like it's hot. But thank you guys. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. And have a great Halloween. We won't see you till November.
Take care, guys.